Hey history buffs, welcome back to History Unveiled. Today we're diving deep into one of America's most infamous secret societies, Yale University's Skull and Bones. You've probably heard rumors about mysterious rituals, world-controlling conspiracies, and powerful alumni grabbing every top job. But what's the real story behind Skull and Bones? We're about to uncover the facts, dispel the myths, and explore the society's history from its 1832 founding to today. Imagine a windowless stone building on Yale's campus, heavy with secrets. That's the tomb, the Skull and Bones headquarters. The image below shows the original 1856 building, which still stands today. Today we'll look at how Skull and Bones was formed, what traditions and beliefs it holds, who its members are, and why it looms so large in elite circles and popular culture. Along the way, we'll separate hard facts, backed by reputable sources, from wild speculation. By the end, you'll know just what Skull and Bones is and what it isn't. Let's get started. Skull and Bones was established at Yale College in 1832, making it the oldest of Yale's senior societies. According to historical sources, it was founded by two ambitious juniors, William Huntington Russell, an 1833 class valedictorian, and Alphonso Taft. Taft, by the way, was no ordinary undergrad. He would later become U.S. Attorney General, and his son would be President William Howard Taft. In other words, from the very beginning, Skull and Bones was tied to powerful families. Russell and Taft were both top students, members of Phi Beta Kappa, who wanted a new forum for debate and brotherhood. Britannica notes the society may have been inspired either by a Phi Beta Kappa election dispute or by European secret clubs Russell encountered in Germany. Whatever the spark, Russell and Taft gathered 6 classmates and invited 8 others, including some of Yale's only students from the western states, to form a new club in spring 1832. They called it the Eulogian Club, from the Greek eulogia, meaning blessing, to obscure its nature. Not long after, someone changed the name in a quirky way. In 1832, a member hurriedly posted a meeting notice on the Yale chapel door and impetuously sketched a skull and crossbones over it, simply to attract attention, he later wrote. The symbol made a sensation on campus and stuck as the society's emblem and name. So Skull and Bones was born almost by accident. By 1833, the new club had already run afoul of Yale's faculty. According to Yale's archives, professors objected to the Bonesmen's rowdy antics. They busted a Bones convivial meeting on Christmas Day 1833, warning members' parents that further breaches of decorum could get students expelled. In one tale, faculty even stormed a meeting intending to abolish Bones, only to relent after founder William Russell, then a tutor at Yale, pleaded for mercy. By the 1840s, Bones was firmly established, even convincing a junior classmate that it was of quite an ancient origin, and one of the most secret associations on campus. For the first 2 decades, the Bonesmen met in rented rooms around New Haven. But in 1856, the society's alumni decided it was time for a permanent home. They formed a corporation, the Russell Trust Association, to hold property and built a custom meeting hall on High Street near Yale's old campus. The result was the now famous tomb, a windowless brownstone block in an Egyptian Doric style, complete with heavy iron doors etched with the Skull and Bones symbol. In fact, alumni built the first U.S. fraternity house ever, and it still stands as the oldest such building in the country. Another view of the Skull and Bones tomb at Yale shows the original 1856 structure had no exterior windows and massive iron doors, giving it the appearance of a fortress. According to Yale historians, the new tomb caused a campus sensation. At $30,000, it cost far more than Yale's own first stone building. Originally, it was just 1 block. Over time, the building expanded. A second block was added in 1883, and in 1903, the tomb was doubled in size with a matching wing and a new central entrance. The fully enlarged tomb looks like what you see today, a forbidding, windowless fortress with a flat, tin-covered roof and padlocked iron doors. Its very appearance was meant to keep curiosities out, fitting for a group devoted to secrecy. Inside the tomb, the Bonesmen established new rituals and habits. Meetings are held twice weekly, typically Thursday nights, for dinners and debates. The society even has its own jargon. New members are knights. Long-term alumni are patriarchs, and non-members are jokingly called barbarians. Every spring, the current members hold a secret tap ceremony to invite tap 15 Yale juniors into the club for the next year. According to one source, juniors used to be tapped by a shadowy bonesman slipping up in the night and giving them a heavy shoulder clap. Yale still publishes the new members' names in its campus paper, The Rumpus, but only after the mysterious tapping event. By mid-century, Skull and Bones had cemented itself as a fixture. The alumni-run Russell Trust Association held title to the tomb and other assets, ensuring the society's permanence. The tomb's intimidating style and the blood bond of secrecy transformed Skull and Bones into a powerful tradition on campus. As a Yale alumnus in 1842 quipped, Bones was of quite an ancient origin, even though it was barely a decade old. Now, what do we actually know about what goes on inside those walls? By design, not much is public. The Society's only official beliefs are what members voluntarily reveal in memoirs or lawsuits. But from those clues and reporting, a picture emerges: secrecy and loyalty. Members take an oath of secrecy when they join, promising to keep the Society's dealings confidential. For Bonesmen, loyalty to the club is lifelong. Their bonds extend beyond college graduation. As one insider put it, Bones is probably the most successful elite network this country has, since members can freely ask fellow Bonesmen in power for jobs, money, and connections. Symbolism. The emblem of Skull and Bones is a human skull atop crossed bones, with the number 322 below it. Why 322? There's no official answer. One theory is that 322 refers to 322 BCE, the year the Greek orator Demosthenes died, a symbolic nod to the end of Athenian democracy and the rise of empire. Another theory ties it to the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BCE. Either way, the imagery evokes ancient grandeur and mortality, fitting for a secretive club that playfully calls itself the Order of Eulogia. Ironically, the Society's original name Eulogian meant blessing, but it quickly vanished behind the more ominous Skull and Bones motif. Initiation rites. Rumors about Bones' initiation rituals are legendary. In 2004, The Guardian reported that John Kerry and George W. Bush, who were tapped into Bones in the 1960s, laid bare their sex lives in Gothic rituals presided over by a human skull and the skeletal remains of various other animal species. Yikes. On the surface, this sounds wild. However, even that same reporter notes scholars caution such tales. Author Alexandra Robbins, who wrote an exposé on Yale societies, says much of the lurid lore is exaggerated. For example, myths that each Bonesman gets a $15,000 gift on graduation, or that initiates spend hours lying in coffins, are simply untrue. Robbins found that, if anything, new members might lie in a coffin for a few minutes during pledge night. Hardly the stuff of a horror film. So while we can't rule out some secret rituals, it's best to take the scariest stories with a grain of salt. In fact, both Bush and Kerry have been famously evasive about their Bones experiences. When pressed by NBC's Tim Russert, President Bush deadpanned, "It's so secret we can't talk about it." Kerry replied only that he wished there was something secret I could manifest. Meetings and dinners. What we do know is that Bonesmen dine together regularly. The Society is famed for its dinners, according to interviews with members. In fact, weekly Thursday night dinners are a tradition, often with lobster on the menu, and notably no alcohol served, an early Bones rule. These sit-down meals mix formal toasts, bonhomie, and heated debates. Yale historian David Richards notes that Bones dinners are predictable affairs, centered around structured discussion topics, things like "Do manners make the man?", where each member can propose ideas and debate big questions. After dinner comes the bios ritual, where members sit in a circle and take turns sharing the story of their lives, an exercise in vulnerability and bonding. In summary, Skull and Bones' internal beliefs seem to be a mixture of elite camaraderie and classical illusion. They don't have a public ideology beyond devotion to the club. Instead, members are bound by ritual, secrecy, and the spirit of mutual assistance. In practice, that has meant forming an influential network that stretches across decades. With its veil of secrecy and a tradition of grabbing the best students, Skull and Bones naturally became a breeding ground for future leaders. Over the years, its alumni have dominated politics, business, and media. Let's survey the who's who of Bonesmen. U.S. Presidents. The society boasts 3 U.S. presidents as alumni. William Howard Taft, Yale class of 1878, was tapped for Bones as a senior and eventually became the 27th president. In the 20th century, 2 Bushes earned their Bones membership. George H.W. Bush, class of 1948, and his son George W. Bush, class of 1968. Interestingly, during the 2004 election, these were the 2 presidential nominees, making Bones the only secret society with members running head-to-head for the White House. Cabinet and senators. Notables include John Kerry, Yale 66, later a U.S. Senator and Secretary of State, who was tapped in 1965 along with classmate Frederick Smith, founder of FedEx. Henry Luce, Yale 20, who co-founded Time magazine, is a well-known Bonesman. Over the years, Bones alumni have filled Senate seats, Supreme Court clerkships, and key posts in administrations. Business and finance. Bones connections run deep in corporate America. Famous Fortune 500 CEOs and financiers are counted among members. For example, news outlets note that the Bush family's inner circle, Yale sorority societies, and banks often overlap. So many members can call up presidents, Supreme Court judges, and cabinet members to ask for jobs, money, and connections, as investigative author Alexandra Robbins put it. Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, and other dynastic names have definitely circulated in Bones' ranks. One CNBC profile even quips that Bones is among the wealthiest, most well-connected groups at an already wealthy exclusive university. Culture and media. The club's reach extends into culture too. Henry Luce helped shape 20th century news media. Bones alumni have founded magazines, think tanks, and academic programs. Their influence also permeates elite education networks. The link between Bones and other power elite institutions has been noted by historians. Taken together, these ties give Skull and Bones a reputation as an American aristocracy factory. As one observer put it, Bonesmen have often been called kingmakers and masters of the universe, given how many lead roles they occupy. The Atlantic summarizes it well. Skull and Bones was originally intended to prepare Yale men for leadership beyond the university, and by that measure it has succeeded handsomely in producing C-suite executives, diplomats, and politicos. All of this raises the obvious question: do Bonesmen use their bonds to influence policy and business? Former members insist it's more camaraderie than conspiracy, but some degree of networking is undeniable. Journalist Robbins noted, "This is an organization where members can call up presidents and ask for jobs, money, and connections." A strategy of mutual support, a powerful old boys club, has certainly benefited members' careers. On the other hand, it's one thing to ask a friend for a job, and another to secretly run the Federal Reserve. To set the record straight, most historians caution that Bones alumni have not been found directing national policy as a club. They're just very well connected. Skull and Bones has become the stuff of legend, and Hollywood loves a good legend. Over the decades, this secret society has surfaced in movies, TV shows, and books, often dramatized far beyond reality. Let's take a look at some of its most notable pop culture appearances. In the 2000 thriller The Skulls, we find probably the most direct portrayal of Skull and Bones. The fictional secret society borrows heavily from the real Bones, the Yale tomb, the 15-member rule, and even a sly nod to 3 American presidents as alumni, alluding to Taft and both Bushes. The movie even humorously claims that the CIA was created within its walls, playing on the fact that many early OSS and CIA figures were Yale graduates. In reality, there was no secret CIA initiation ceremony in New Haven, though Bonesmen like Alan Dulles were indeed influential in US intelligence during World War II. While The Skulls dramatizes conspiracies and campus murders for suspense, it captures the mystique that continues to surround Skull and Bones. Beyond The Skulls, Bones has made various cameos in popular culture. In Baz Luhrmann's The Great Gatsby, 2013, Jay Gatsby's elite, secretive past subtly echoes the aura of groups like Bones. The teen drama Gossip Girl, set among New York City's private school elite, even casually mentions the society, implying some characters hail from Skull and Bones families. Cartoons like The Simpsons have also poked fun at the idea of a sinister Yale club, offering playful nods rather than serious history. These references help cement Bones in the public imagination as the archetypal old boys club. In literature, non-fiction books like Anthony Sutton's America's Secret Establishment delve deep into Bones-related conspiracies, alleging grand schemes of world domination. Fictional thrillers, such as those by Dan Brown, often feature secret societies, though usually focused on Freemasons and Vatican plots. But the mysterious aura around Skull and Bones still fuels endless inspiration for writers and screenwriters alike. In short, Skull and Bones has become pop culture shorthand for elite secretive power, appearing across everything from Scandal to The Simpsons. Sometimes the portrayals indulge in wild conspiracy theories, other times they're subtle Easter eggs. Either way, the legend grows. And speaking of legends, it's time to step into the sensational, the conspiracy theories. Because Bones is secretive and powerful, it's a prime target for some of the wildest speculation out there. Let's dive into the most common claims and see what the evidence, or lack thereof, really says. One of the most famous theories ties Skull and Bones to the so-called New World Order. In 1986, Anthony C. Sutton published a book alleging that Bonesmen were plotting to create a shadowy global government. The idea quickly caught fire in fringe circles, Bonesmen manipulating wars, banks, and elections from behind the scenes. However, mainstream historians largely dismiss this. As Time magazine once quipped, while Bones alumni like Bush and Kerry do reach powerful positions, Skull and Bones is small potatoes compared with the mysterious cabals that occupy virtually every seat of power. In reality, the world's conspiracies, real or imagined, involve far broader networks, like the Illuminati, Bilderberg Group, or international banks, not just a Yale senior society. Closely related are rumors that Bones secretly directs US government decisions. The 2004 election, pitting George W. Bush against John Kerry, both Bonesmen, seemed to fuel this idea. But analysts point out that Bush and Kerry ran separate campaigns, often disagreed, and there's no credible evidence that Bones scripted anything behind the scenes. The Guardian reported conspiracy theorists pushing the idea of a shadowy network of Yale alumni, but also highlighted scholars like Alexandra Robbins, who argue that Bones cultivates mystique intentionally, knowing it fuels such myths. Another common legend ties Skull and Bones to the origins of US intelligence agencies. The Skulls movie claims the OSS, the precursor to the CIA, was founded within the tomb's walls. There's a grain of truth here. Yale grads, including Bonesmen like William Donovan and Alan Dulles, played major roles in founding the OSS during World War II. But no classified documents prove Skull and Bones orchestrated intelligence policy. It's more accurate to say that Ivy League networks, not secret society rituals, shaped early US intelligence work. Some rumors even claim Bones members received secret wealth payouts, with tales like the infamous $15,000 inheritance given to each initiate. As previously noted, there's no evidence to support this. While Skull and Bones does maintain a sizable endowment through the Russell Trust, funded largely by alumni donations, there's no hidden treasure chest waiting for new members. Perhaps the most lurid story revolves around the alleged theft of Geronimo's skull. In 2009, Geronimo's descendants sued Yale, claiming Bonesmen had stolen his remains decades earlier. Although the society fought the case, insisting they didn't have the skull or that it wasn't authentic, a jury later found that human remains were indeed in Bones' possession, but couldn't conclusively prove they belonged to Geronimo. It remains an unresolved, troubling legend. Even if true, it points more to reckless behavior than to a vast conspiracy. Even darker are internet rumors of mind control, drug rituals, Satanism, and human sacrifice within Skull and Bones. Yet credible historians find no proof. Some former members admit to playful hazing rituals, like crawling into a coffin while wearing a blue blazer, but nothing remotely as sinister as internet lore suggests. Bones is certainly eccentric, but it's no cult of evil. Throughout the years, trusted sources like The Guardian and Time urge caution. Yes, Skull and Bones alumni wield influence, but there's no hard evidence they manipulate global events from behind the scenes. Most scholars describe Bones as a powerful social network, exclusive and influential, but far from omnipotent. Importantly, Skull and Bones itself has evolved. For much of its early history, it was an all-male, nearly all-white fraternity. That began to change under pressure during the Civil Rights era. Bones tapped its first black member in 1965 and its first openly gay member in 1975. Although Yale became co-ed in 1969, Bones didn't invite women until the class of 1992, and not without internal resistance. In fact, some alumni even protested by changing the tomb's locks. Today, Skull and Bones is far more diverse. By 2020, the society reportedly tapped its first entirely non-white class, deliberately selecting outstanding students from varied backgrounds, including first-generation college students and minorities. In 2019, current Bonesmen even took down portraits of past members from the tomb's walls, replacing them with signs critiquing the society's legacy of exclusion. The Bones of today is still secretive, but no longer the old boys' club it once was. From its humble 19th century origins as a student debate society founded by William Russell and Alphonso Taft, to its modern status as a lightning rod for conspiracy theories, Skull and Bones has had quite a journey. It really did begin in 1832 with a simple doodle on a chapel door, a skull and crossbones, and the construction of its iconic tomb in 1856. Over the years, Bones has produced corporate CEOs, government leaders, and even presidents, adding fuel to its enduring myth. Yet when we separate fact from fiction, the picture becomes clearer. Skull and Bones is an exclusive Yale senior society, rich in tradition and secrecy, but not a hidden government. Its rituals, symbols like the skull, crossbones, and 322, and prestigious alumni lend it an air of mystery, but the wildest tales are best left to Hollywood thrillers. So next time you hear someone claim Skull and Bones controls the world, remember the reality, speculative at best, overblown at worst. As sources from Britannica to History magazine emphasize, while Bones alumni have real-world clout, there's no credible evidence of them orchestrating secret world domination. And today, the society reflects a broader, more diverse group of students than ever before. Was it all worth it? If nothing else, Skull and Bones offers a fascinating window into how myth and reality blur across American history. It's a story of ambition, tradition, secrecy, and how mystery itself can become the greatest legend of all. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Yale's Skull and Bones. If you loved uncovering history's secrets with us, don't forget to smash that like button. Subscribe to History Unveiled for more thrilling journeys into the past, and leave a comment below. Do you believe the Skull and Bones conspiracies, or do you think they're overhyped? We'd love to hear your thoughts. See you next time, History Detectives.